Hello viewers. One of the games that caught my eye at E3 was Ace Combat 7. I'm a big fan of the earlier titles in the series, and of course we also cover the VR titles on the channel as well. The VR on Ace Combat is very impressive, and the game itself is looking fantastic at this stage. It's really something I'm looking forward to. So I caught up with the brand manager David, who himself was a real pilot, was in the US Air Force. I bet he has a few stories to tell, but either way I asked him a bit about the game and just what's great about it, basically, you know, what they've put back, what they've improved, and how the whole title is sort of moving forward in terms of a franchise. Let's see what he had to say. Hello viewers, well now I'm joined by David, who's the brand manager for Ace Combat 7. David, thanks for sparing the time today.
My pleasure.
So I suppose, tell us a bit about Ace Combat 7, but also you have quite an interesting background as well, so tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I guess I should go with the background first. Yeah. I'm a plane guy, not in plain Jane, but I love aircraft. I guess you could say I'm plain Jane as well, but my entire life I have been infatuated, obsessed, completely in love with everything aerospace, and eventually led me to join the Armed Forces, go Navy, and get into naval aviation as a naval flight officer. You know, before you start making me out to be a hero or anything like that, my hat's off to the real heroes out there, and I loved my time in the service. But there are so many people out there doing so much more than I even glanced at, and making so many more sacrifices. So hats off to them.
Absolutely.
But anyway, back to your question. I'm very, very passionate about all things aircraft, and to be working on Ace Combat right now, I'm pinching myself. I can't believe I actually get paid for this.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, Ace Combat, I mean, I've mentioned to you, I mean, I enjoyed the original Ace Combat game, first two, but I didn't like the action cam. It's not been mine. I've kind of sort of floated off a bit from Ace Combat in recent times. It wasn't as straightforward to me, wasn't the standard sort of combat. I've come back to this. I played the VR version earlier this year. I took off from the aircraft carrier, I went through the clouds, I played the VR mission, which is amazing on PSVR, and I thought Ace Combat is back. I'm really excited about this version now. Just been playing it again here, really liking it, because it brings back what was great about the originals. So tell me a little bit about Ace Combat 7 and what we can expect to see in the final game.
Well, you know, you hit the nail on the head. With Ace Combat 7, we're going back to the core of everything that made Ace Combat great. You know, the traditional combat controls, these incredibly rich, visually immersive cinematics. We're going back to the world of Strange Reel. You know, if you're not familiar with that, that's the realistic yet alternative universe that that all of the numbered Ace Combat games have been going through. An incredibly deep storyline. We've brought back a lot of the writers from the original series, and you know, if having played the previous games, you know how deep and emotionally intense these stories are. But we're also adding some incredible evolutionary elements to this game as well. You know, first off, we're going with the Unreal Engine 4 as the base of this game right now, and we're taking full advantage of that. You know, graphically, you're just going to be blown away at the visual eye candy that we have in here. We're using technology, something that we call True Sky technology, and you see with the gameplay, these beautiful cumulonimbus clouds. They not only look beautiful, but they play an incredibly vital element in the game. You fly into a cumulonimbus cloud, is in real life, you're going to get thrown around all over the place. That happens in the game here as well. You start to see, you know, the condensation on your canopy, you know, the rain forming. You stay in that cloud too long, it's going to turn into ice. And not only does that bring your visibility down to zero, but you know, anyone who flies knows ice on the wings is not a good thing. So your performance is suffering as well. But you know, I'm going on and on about the clouds, but it's just so cool. One of another element, you got radar lock on someone, they go into a cloud, there's so much you know, activity inside this cloud, the moisture, the radar is getting a bunch of false returns, you'll see that radar lock go in and out, and you can lose a guy. You can use it for your strategic advantage or strategic disadvantage.
Yeah.
I could go on and
on
on and on.
I actually really impressed with that. It was a nice surprise because I went into that cloud and it was freezing up. I lost control of my craft. I was in big trouble. I lost my enemy. He was behind me, and it really does play an integral part, and it adds a lot without being there being too much depth. It's kind of an intuitive feeling. It's logical what's actually taking place, and it's not too hard for gamers. They're going to go in there, they're going to learn how to pick it up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I guess modes in the game, what can we expect out of VR, our VR experience, and also in terms of online, what can we expect there in terms of the online experience on Ace Combat?
Sure thing. Well, first and foremost, VR. You said that it adds to the experience, and you're absolutely right. It's like an entirely new experience. You put that headset on, and with the demo that we just showed, you're strapped into an F/A-18 Super Hornet, and you're looking down. You're like, these are my legs. This is my arm right there. I'm really in this craft.
Yeah.
You get launched off the aircraft carrier, and then just as with real world combat aviation, they always told us in flight school, you got to have your head on a swivel.
Yeah.
If you're just looking straight ahead, you're doing something wrong. So pilots, you got radar, which is great. You got these smart missiles, but you are always looking around. You're tracking with your head. Yeah. That's the way you do it, and that's the way that you're able to do this in VR for the first time. Yeah. I've been working with flight sims for a long time, and ever since I first got into it, I'm like, we got to get a good VR, and we finally got it now with Ace Combat.
Well, I have to say, it's one of the top two. I mean, I've mentioned before, but there was Star Wars, which came out last year, and that was very similar. You're in your X-Wing fighter, you're looking around following a TIE fighter, it really gave you that feeling. Then you start to think about the pilots in Star Wars and stuff like that. Here you're playing Top Gun, and again, it's a similar sort of feeling.
That's right.
It does give you that hero feeling. So I guess the final question is, if there's an aspect you're most proud of that you've seen in this game so far, the aspect that's excited you the most, what would it be?
That's a tough question, and I guess I would have to answer this by kind of taking it up another level, saying this encapsulates and really conveys everything about air combat in one package. Everything from the little things, the details in the graphics, the radio chatter, the emotional intensity, down to the realism of the aircraft. The basic performance. You zoom in on the models, even the little rivets, exactly the same place that it is in a real, whatever it is, F/A-18, E or F, or one of the arsenal of aircraft that we have in the game. So I guess to answer your question a little more succinctly, better than anything I've ever played, this gives you that feeling of air combat and the emotional intensity of it.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thanks for your time today. When's it going to be released?
2018.
2018. Well, there you go, viewers. Well, listen, David, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So really informative from David there, but also passionate. He's really passionate about where this series is going, and on playing it, I'm really passionate about it as well. I think it looks absolutely fantastic, and I think it's the next killer app in terms of VR, especially PlayStation VR. In a way, it's sort of the biggest title since, I guess you could say, since Resident Evil, but for me, since Star Wars last year. I mean, flying the X-Wing fighter was an incredible experience, and even though it was so limited, it just showcased the potential of VR, and this does that as well. But even as a standard 2D game, the idea of the clouds and the inclusion of so many features and so much detail means that this is certainly a game to look forward to. It's not out till 2018. The team are putting sort of all the work into it to make it absolutely perfect, and I'm glad they're doing that. I'd rather see something that's great rather than something that's rushed just to get it out the door. So one to look forward to there. No doubt there'll be a bit more coverage from me further down the line, but that's it from me for now. As ever, more soon.